Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for FY23 Grants Info Session. My name is Halima Ahmed. I work closely with, I think, many of you. I'm the Assistant Director of MCAEL. We're going to have introductions of the staff. I'll pass it off to Rudy. We can hear you, Rudy.
Rudy, I think you just need to unmute yourself to introduce yourself.
So sorry. It's great to see everybody. I'm Director of Programs, Rudy Jung. Thanks for coming.
Tiffany?
Good afternoon, everybody. Nice to see you all. My name is Tiffany Ross. I'm the Manager of Network Learning and Development.
Thank you. Tom?
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tom Colling. I'm the Manager of Grants and Administration at MCAEL.
Thank you. And Kathy?
Hi, everyone. So good to see your faces. Thanks for being with us. As many of you know, I'm the Executive Director for MCAEL. Hi, Dwight. Haven't seen you in a long time. I see the wave. Thanks for being here today. Thanks for all of your work.
I'm going to share my screen just to look at the agenda for today. It is a packed agenda. Sorry, I went to the last screen. One moment. So our agenda today, we'll start off with Kathy, who will provide some context for the budget for FY23. And then we'll also look at the data for FY21. It's very exciting. And then we'll get to the nitty-gritty of this meeting, which is the MCAEL program. And we'll also have some live demo for the portal as well. I'll pass it off to Kathy to get us started.
Great. Thanks, Halima. Thanks for all your work putting this together, too. We do this annually, so thank goodness we can keep doing this. And I really appreciate everybody's ongoing work with this. As I was thinking about it, this is, I think, the 10th one of these, maybe just the 9th that I've been able to participate in, because I'm coming up on my 10th anniversary with MCAEL. And of course, we've been doing the grants for, I guess, about 13 years. Of course, you all know we're in our 15th anniversary year, and I'll talk more about that later. But for purposes of this, we're excited to be able to offer grants again this year. As you all know, MCAEL's budget for the grants resides within the county's budget. We are designated through the county executive's budget, which we will be waiting to see where we fall in terms of amounts once the county executive's budget is sent over to, made public and sent over to the county council, which always happens on March 15th by statute. So we will be awaiting that. But as always is the case, we've started working with our budget manager back in December on what we thought our needs might be, and always asking for more, knowing that we have more to do, you have more to do. We want to continue to serve as many people as possible with English classes with quality instruction. And we know that means that, we know costs are going up. We know we want to compensate the people with whom we work as well as we can. So all of that will be taken into context. Again, we fall within context of the greater county budget. We know this is contextual. I don't know where we'll fall this year. I haven't been given any heads up on that. I'm hopeful that it will be in a good spot. And as soon as we know that, we'll let you all know. We'll let you know if there's any additional advocacy that we feel we need to do as an organization and that we might need your help with. Too early to tell. We just don't know that at this point. So as you may or may not know, MCAEL, we're continuing to do so many of the things that we do and have done well, I think, as a collective over the last 15 years. We're also, as probably many of you have found out over the last year, we're implementing a race equity strategic plan that we worked on through the Leadership Montgomery Race Equity Action Leadership Workshop, which we attended 2019 to 2020. And that strategic plan has some different things in it that certainly some things we're looking at internally to make sure our internal policies are well situated and have an eye to making sure that we're being equitable. At the same time, we know that there are opportunities to educate ourselves, further all of our education on matters around equity and how equity shows up in the classrooms, and how we want to think about whether there are any things that we need to do differently or tweak or consider in a different way in terms of trainings, in terms of teaching. And Tiffany is working a lot on that, think about some ways that we want to bring some further trainings, specific trainings to the network through our workshops, but also making sure that equity is woven into all of the things that we are doing on an ongoing basis. And we all are participating in that from a staff level as well. And certainly through the grants process, the grants panel will be thinking through how our whole system, we fund a wide range of programs, over 20 of you. And as a system, how does equity show up in the system, in the network of programs that provide adult English classes? So that all ties into, and that's a very brief overview. Obviously, it's much more complicated than that, but just reminding us all that that is a component of the grants process that we run. I know also that we continue to be in a pandemic. I don't think we've reached endemic, as the scientists would say, conditions yet. And that continues to weigh on your minds as program managers in terms of, are you offering online classes? Are you offering in-person classes? Are you offering a combination of both? I see Chow Chow on the call, and we were on a chat with Kathy yesterday, and I'm just going to say, Chow Chow, you were raising the questions. How are we going to balance this? What are we going to retain? Are we going to do some online classes, some in-person classes? I suspect that many of you are having those same conversations with your instructors, with the learner population, with, whatever, if you sit within a social service agency, what your agency or what your organization is doing. And we understand that some of you have actually made that transition back to in-person classes. Great, good for you. That probably is serving you very well. Some of you have not, and it's maybe not time yet. I mean, the factors are many, and the factors are changeable too. So I would just say congratulations if you have, continue to reach out to us as thought partners. There's also, I'm sure, we could do some informal brown bag discussions to share information about how you're handling these things. I think we all know that there are some great benefits from in-person instruction, and there's some great benefits from online instruction. And how do we manage that as a coalition? I think we can come up with some very creative ways to maybe even increase some service and change some service across the coalition. So congratulations to all of you for handling that. I know it continues to be, it's something we all are dealing with anything we're doing in our lives, but certainly your programs are not immune from that. We have done some great things. Halima's going to talk about a new grant category that we have this year. We did some mid-year grants for some small programs where it's not necessary that they're 501c3 organizations. Again, this is with our equity plan in mind, making sure that we're reaching organizations that may not have felt like they could compete or could even apply. So there are many other things that I know that from Tiffany, Rudy, and Halima on our program side. Just want to highlight, and maybe Helena, we could just go to the slide just to highlight a few upcoming things that I'm sure you all know about, but I just want to put a pin in them that save the dates. If you haven't already, you'll be hearing and have heard from Tiffany and a work group around the Professional Development Conference, March 19th. The last one we did was about a week before we shut everything down in March 2020. So we're really excited to bring this back. The conference itself is virtual. There will be an in-person opportunity to network on Friday evening, the 18th. And of course, you'll hear more about that. And the Grown-Up Spelling Bee, which all of you, if you haven't attended, you should. It's a lot of fun. This is our signature fundraiser, May 4th. We'll be doing that at Montgomery College. Everything this year is centered around our 15-year anniversary theme. Our 15-year anniversary was actually 2021. We are taking the privilege of extending that, having been unable to really plan and implement things in 2021. People power potential. Who are the people of MCAEL? What's our collective power? And what is our potential as we look forward for the next 15 years? Along that line, if those of you who are familiar with the Humans of New York effort that I can't remember the author's name, but he's got a bunch of stuff on social media, and he's ended up publishing some books about people or Humans of New York. We're going to do the people of MCAEL. And so we'll be reaching out, interviewing some people, highlighting them through social media at our in-person events. And this might be learners, instructors, program managers, people who've supported us over the years, might be elected officials, could be anyone. So please, if you have some ideas about someone who's really outstanding, let us know. We're also instituting a new MCAEL award that will be awarding at the Spelling Bee along the 15-year theme. So again, you'll see probably in the next couple of weeks a call for nominations for that. So I just want to end by saying a huge thank you to all of you. You all know that I know we are not a coalition without the work that you do, and we understand that, appreciate that, and love being in partnership with you. And I can't do what I do without my amazing staff, all of whom are on the line right now. We're in the process of hiring some new communication staff, but we're all a team, and I'm very appreciative of that. So Halima, I think I covered everything, and I turn it back to you.
Thank you, Kathy. I'll pass it on to Rudy to give us some updates on the FY21 data.
Great, thank you, Halima.
You're welcome.
Every year when we do this, we provide a bit of context in terms of the numbers and the numbers of adults who report that they speak English less than very well, which are the who are the beneficiaries of all of your programs. I wanted to say that please, if anybody has any questions along the way, interrupt me or put your questions in the chat. Yes, over 129,000 adults report that they speak English less than very well. I wanted to tell you that our FY21 story map is available now on the MCAEL website. For those of you who are not familiar with this, this is an analysis and mapping of learner and class data that we collect from the largest providers of ESOL classes across the county, including all grant recipients, as well as Montgomery College and Gilchrist Immigrant Resource Center. So please take a look at it. It will give you information on census tracts and zip codes. You can drill down on what languages, what language groups folks who are studying are from, and just give you a whole bunch of information that might be useful as you're putting your proposals together. I did want to mention that this year, because in FY21 most classes were online, it's a little bit different. We don't talk about class sites because we don't have as many, well, since all classes were online, it was more looking at learners and what zip codes that they live in. And so in a second, I'll get back to some interesting data on that. So on the maps, in the story map, what's interesting is that we use the latest census data available, which is 2019 still, on language ability, and we overlay that with the data that we collect. So from that, you can see what the densities are in terms of the limited English proficient population, et cetera. So Halima, would you mind changing the slide? Thank you. Just a couple of nuggets from this story map. One thing that we look at every year is learners served by language group, and I apologize for the small print, but this is a this shows from 2018 to 2021, the last 4 years, how the learners break down in terms of Spanish, other Indo-European languages, other languages, and Asian and Pacific Island languages. And so, for instance, if you look at the Spanish section in orange on the far left, you'll see that in 2021, 8.76% of all adult Spanish speakers who have self-identified as limited English proficient attended English classes. So that's how to read this. When you look at the story map, the link of which was in the will be in these slides when we send them out to you. You can go into each of those bars and it will give you numbers as well. You'll see that there's still, so 8.76 Spanish speakers in 2021, 5.67% other Indo-European languages. We think that that is really talking about French speakers and Russian speakers. The increase in other languages, the blue, I would say is probably mostly Amharic speakers. Then the yellow bars, the Asian languages category, we've hovered about the same. Next slide, please. So I was mentioning just now that we are really focusing on learners by region rather than class size by region for FY21. And one thing you can notice that's interesting about this comparative data between the previous year, 2020, and 2021 is that the number of learners from Up County and Mid County is pretty much on par, 29% for Up County and 30% for Mid County. In the previous year, Mid County was still higher. So I do think that this shows that online classes have made it easier for folks who live in Up County where there are fewer class sites and fewer learning opportunities to attend class. And so this is a great piece of evidence that supports the continuation of online classes or some percentage of online classes. And you can see that East County, the number is slightly increased, number of learners from East County. So I think I was just going to keep my data points brief, but please do take a look at the story map. I believe there was a question about the accessing this, Halima, in the, oh, let me take a look at the chat. Yes, this slide deck will be available after this workshop, probably on Monday. We'll send it out, and a recording of this as well.
Thank you, Rudy. I'm going to stop sharing screen just to see if we have any other questions on the data points.
I have a question. Hi, this is Stacy Fannin from the Briggs Center. Rudy, on the grant, would you rather know the L1 language that the learner speaks, or the place of birth, or both? You know, we collect data, you know, and I currently don't collect their L1 language. I collect the information on where they were born.
I think either. If you have the information on the language, that's great too. As of last year or this year, I think we were starting to focus more on L1, collecting that information as well. Thank you. Oh, and for some reason I didn't put this on a slide, but just to let everybody know. So in FY21, everybody, the MCAEL funded programs had 577 classes altogether over the year, and served 4,160 unique learners. The duplicated figure was 6,902. So, yay.
We have another question. What cities make up Mid County? I think that's your Rockville, Wheaton.
Yes. Wheaton, Rockville, I think those are the main ones. But all of that area in the middle, and on our, let's see, we have maps on our website, I think, that show which cities are in which regions. And if you do a Google search also of the county, it's based on the county's own division into 5 different regions.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions on the data point, so we'll just get on the next part of our meeting, which is the MCAEL grants. So the MCAEL grants, I'll just provide an overview. The county funded grant has been ongoing since 2007. For this current year, FY22, there were 1.277 million that was given in grants to 20 organizations to support 28 programs. And this past December, we started the startup grants, which is a very exciting process for us. And it does take into account the racial equity lens that Kathy mentioned briefly. We funded 3 organizations for 13,000. The overall objective for the MCAEL grants is to increase the number of classes, as well as the quality of instruction to lead to learner gains. We do want to provide different types of learning opportunities for different types of learners as well. The programs did bring in a lot of diversity in terms of the different organizations that are leading these classes across the county. And also we want to make sure that it does reduce barriers to learning for learners. This is a quick timeline. And again, this slide will be presented, will be emailed out to everybody. And we have this information on our website as well. Next Friday, we'll have the grant portal open for new applications, so for FY23. The week of March 14th, and this is already on the website as well, you can book an hour slot to speak with Rudy or I. And this would be to answer any questions that you might have about the application process. We do recommend that first-time applicants, new program staff, and both the small access grant, as well as the other access application. The grant application FY23 will be due on April 5th, Tuesday, 5 p.m. And then the week of May 11th and May 13th, that's when we'll have our interviews where people who apply for the application will get to speak with the grant panel review. Early June, that's when the grant review panel will meet and discuss, make final recommendation for the funding. It then gets approved by the MCAEL board, and we'll be notifying all the applicants sometime in June as well. June and July, that's the process where we have the LOAs for everyone who's awarded. September, that's when the first invoices are distributed. And then January 10th of next year, 2023, that's when the mid-year reports are going to be due for FY23. In February of next year, around this time, that's when the second invoices for FY23 will be distributed. And July 6th of next year, 2023, that's when the FY23 final reports will be due. So this is just a brief overview of the different grants that we have. The first one is the programs. This is for the amount for this one is 20,000 and up. And this program typically is for it's for organizations that are offering at least 100. They're offering 120 hours of instruction per learner. You have an established infrastructure in place. The classes are more in a formal setting. So that would be your managed enrollment for classes with registration dates and your session with your start and end dates. They're not for drop-in classes. The use of funds for the program, it can be used to support services such as childcare and transportation. We know often that can be a hindrance to learner gain. It can also be used to strengthen the program management and the capacity of the organization to deliver the quality services. It can also be used for indirect cost. Mhm. This is the access. Most of you are already familiar with this. It is designed to create access for those who are not quite ready to take more formal English classes. The classes in this could, the nature of it could be a drop-in classes. They could also be used for classes that are not situated in a larger program. And the learners with programs, this would also support programs that have classes that have less than 120 hours per year per learner. This access grant is for anything that's $5,001 through $20,000. You could use the funding for this could be used for instructors pay, materials such as your books, coordination time, childcare and transportation support, professional development for teachers up to 6 hours. And MCAEL does provide a lot of workshops, amazing workshops actually, which many of the instructors do enjoy. And priority for this fund would be still for the core cost of the program. This is the new access small grants that we have this year. We decided to include this to encourage more community and faith-based organizations to offer adult English classes. This category is for organizations that are new to MCAEL, FY22 recipients of the grants for startup, which were 3 organizations, as well as FY22 or previous year recipients who have applied for grants that were 5,000 or less. Applicants for FY23, if you're applying for program and access 5,000 and up, you're not eligible to apply for access small grant. And this is to say that no one organization can apply for all 3 at the same time in a given year. Just to cover some of the basics about the Access Small Grant, you could request up to 5,000. The funds could be used for instructor fees, program coordination time, textbook and materials, rent for classroom space if it's in person, or the Zoom licenses for online classes. Now the MCAEL funds for all 3 grants cannot be used for refreshments or food, gift cards for volunteers, instructors, or learners, but stipends for instructors or volunteers are allowed. The priority area, this is for all the grants, continued services in the Up County region, in the East County region, and any zip codes where there's a gap in ESOL services, classes for populations that are currently not able to access classes as well, classes that do occur on Saturdays or Sundays, and innovative approaches to reaching more learners. And this is a quick map just covering I was highlighting more so the Up County and East County regions you will see here. And this is also on our website. We'll make sure that we share it. This is just a quick snapshot of the 3 different grants that we have, the amount and the eligibility. So for program and access, you do need to have an organization with this 501c3 status. For the small grants, it does not have to be a 501c3 organization. And you can see the amounts here. For program, it's anything $20,001 and up. For the literacy access grant, it's $5,001 to $20,000. And the small access grant is for anything that's 5,000 or less. I know I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. I know I went through everything real fast. Does anyone have any questions before we start the next portion? Let me check the chat.
I have a quick question. Hi, this is Cindy Newland. My question is, can an organization be both program and access?
Yes.
You can, okay, thank you.
Megan?
So if I'm understanding the sort of restructuring correctly, access grants now have to be applying for a minimum of $5,000. Is that correct?
The small access grant, it could be up to 5,000.
But that's only for new programs.
No, existing programs can apply. So if for this current year, if your award was anything 5,000 and less, then you can apply for the Access Small Grant.
I see. Okay, thanks for the clarification.
I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so I can see if somebody has their hand up. I don't see any other question. I'm gonna share my screen again. Rudy?
Okay, so I'm going to go over briefly what the application process is in terms of the forms. This is very similar to last year. There are 2 online forms that are available on the grants portal as of February 18th. One is a narrative application that asks a series of questions. And then attached to that first form are some organizational supporting documents, including budget information, a list of your board of directors or leadership. I think the other one is audit if you have one, if it's applicable. The second online form is a data summary, which is really just a snapshot of the number of learners and classes that you are proposing to have in FY23. Applicants should fill out, especially for the program and the larger access grants, you're asked to fill out the Data and Budget Workbook template first, and then you take those specific data points and put them in the data summary. So just a few points on this. This year, we're asking for responses for all questions. As some of you might remember, last year, some questions were, if nothing had changed, then you could just say same as the previous year. This year, we're going back to, having, everybody needs to respond to all of the questions. And this is basically because to make it so that all the information is together for the grant panel reviewers. Please do feel free to cut and paste from your previous year's applications. And that's one thing that we were hoping that the portal would make it easy for people to do, is just go and cut and paste. So the only exception for this are Access Small Grants applicants. Access Small Grant applicants should use the Access application form, but in the instructions, you'll see that some of the questions are not required for the small grants. And that should be just apparent as you're going through the questions. The guidelines, the grant guidelines we just issued actually has all the questions, and you can see from there which questions are required for Access Small Grants. As I think Kathy mentioned, we're going into a period where we'll want to be thinking about the balance of classes in online and in person, but we're going full steam ahead, of course, with assuming that in-person classes are possible. And hopefully that we won't have to make adjustments this coming year. I think that in this last note, added indicators of learner progress, we've just added that to the guidelines just for reference for questions about benefits for learners. And then a final point to help smaller groups and organizations apply for small grants, on request, we can provide a fillable PDF form application as a alternative to applying online through the portal. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, so I was just going to say a few words about the Data and Budget Workbook. Most of you are returning applicants already are familiar with this, but please do fill out that workbook and all of the worksheets in it before doing your application data summary form. And one thing that we've noticed sometimes is that the numbers don't match. So just be sure to double check that your figures match, the Excel workbook figures match your online form figures. The instructions are just the same as last year. They're highlighted in yellow in the workbook. For program expenses for the previous year, for returning applicants, I think we had this last year as well, but use your letter of agreement budget. I know there's still in FY22 has been some shifting of expenses because we've had to go back online when you plan to be in person or whatever. So just use your letter of agreement budget. I think that might be the easiest thing to do. And as always, we ask that you provide a clear cost basis for each line item so that when the reviewers look at your budget, they can actually do the math themselves and see where your totals come to. You will want to double check your totals because while the formulas are provided, I know some of you may need to add line items, and then you want to make sure that your formulas are correct also. So the next slide, I think, is just a shot of the Data and Budget workbook rather. And again, it's comparative. On the left, it will be, sorry, this is last year's slide. So it'll be FY22 on the left, FY23 on the right for this year's application. Just a note for the startup grants, if you apply for a startup grant in December, this budget form is, the form that you will need to fill out is only a budget form. It differs a little bit for this next application because it's a comparative budget. So you will need to put in what your budget was for FY22 this year, and then next to it, FY23. And as with previous years, we have examples in there on cost basis and everything to show you what we're looking for. So I'll stop there and ask if there are any questions. Halima, was that my last slide?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
I don't see any questions.
Okay.
We'll speak a little bit more about the grant review panel. The grant review panel, I think most of you have gone through this process already. It is made up of representatives who live in the county or work in the county, and they come from various backgrounds, background in adult ESOL, education, nonprofit, business professionals, people with background in grant making or grant review process, people who represent specific populations and their needs, and they're across in different regions of the county. Now, MCAEL's staff, we do support applicants through the process. We coordinate the interviews with the grant review panel to facilitate the entire process, but we do not make any funding decisions or participate in the allocation process for the grants. These are some of the criteria that the grant panel review will be looking for as you, and I think it would be helpful if you have this in mind as you write your applications. Some of the criteria, these criteria are also in the grant guidelines, but a clear indication of lessons learned from FY22 and incorporating that into FY23. Thoughtfulness of your approach to in-person versus online, evidence of flexibility in meeting the needs of the learners, past performances such as meeting the grant requirements, the number of meetings that you have attended, submission of the reports, the entire reports, complete applications, including the budget detail. And Rudy touched on this. You want to make sure that when the grant review panel are looking at your budget, that the numbers that you have in there adds up for them as they're reviewing your application. It's very important. And the grant panel will also consider distribution of the grant funding in a way that is in line with MCAEL's evolving work around access and equity. And this is actually a screenshot of our website right now with, and I'll do a live demo for this. So once you go on there, you'll have access to the portal that you can click on, but the application for FY23, those are not going to be available until next Friday. And on this page, you'll find all the important information that you need to complete your application as well. I'm gonna go, actually, I'll reshare my screen and go on the website so you can see it. It's loading. All right. So this is the homepage for MCAEL's website. Once you go here, you go under support and resources, grants. You're able to see my screen okay, right, as I navigate through it?
Yes.
Okay, great. So here it's the nitty-gritty information. You'll have it all here. The differences between the 3 grant programs. It's all here. And then as you review, you'll also find the panel review process, how that works. This is your timeline. We're going to link this meeting here actually so that you can also review it. Next week, the portal will be open. And then the week of March 15th, we're going to have the one-on-one meetings with anyone who's interested, who has questions about the application process. And I'll just quickly show you that. I changed tabs. Are you able to see it?
Yes.
Okay, great. So once you click on that link, it'll take you to this doodle poll and you can pick the time that works best for you. The applications are due again April 5th. This is the grant guidelines. And I'll just click on the program one. Once you click on it, it'll take you to a PDF version for the grant guidelines. It has all the information that you need. Rudy did mention that you'll have the questions also ahead of time. Even though the portal is not open now, you have this information with you to prepare your application. The program grant guidelines is here. The data workbook for the programs is here. For the small, for the access and small access grant, the guidelines are in the same page. But if you're only applying for, we do encourage you to read the first couple of pages because some of the requirements are the same. But to read on the access small grant, you can just go to page 6 and it's in a different color, so you'll see that. This will be all the information that you need. The guidelines are the same for both access. However, the data workbook for access $5,001 and up is this one. And then for access small grants, it's only a budget form. Once you click on it, you will get, it will be a direct download of an Excel sheet. And then if you click on the portal now, it's if you're a current grant partner, it'll take you to your existing program. But once you, if you visit again on the 18th, the application for the FY23 will be available. Right. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen.
Halima, there were a couple of questions in the chat that we should answer.
Oh,
Jill Ross had asked about Indo. It's only used as Indo-European languages. It's just a language category that is from actually that the census uses, and it means that Indo-European group of languages includes languages such as Hindi, Urdu, as well as European languages.
Thank you.
And there is one other question from Dwight, I believe. I'm sorry, I didn't see that question. Dwight, do you want to just ask it, please?
Yes, I just indicated to Helena that Seneca Creek may be interested in applying for a larger grant in one of the future years. That's one of the reasons Jill is listening to this dialogue. And there would be an interest in benchmarking larger programs. So we were wondering if you could help by providing some recommendations to which programs might be considered worthy of benchmarking to be able to get a handle on best practices, how to avoid some of the, bad issues, the lessons learned, things of that sort. There's a whole range of stuff that one uncovers during a benchmarking process that would be worthwhile for us to consider.
Sure. Why don't we follow up after this meeting? We can.
Sure.
thank you. I just saw your question. When I'm sharing my screen, I'm not able to see the chat. Sorry about that.
I have a question. You referenced a PDF for small access grants. Is that document somewhere as well already available on the website?
No, it's not available. It's just on request. So.
Okay. And it contains the same content that is in the access grant. It just would be a PDF version of that. Is that
It
right?
would be the same questions.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
Mm-hmm. Laura, did I see your hand up? Okay.
Great. Well, if we don't have any other questions, if you do have more questions, you can email us at programs@mccael.org. And again, if you would like to schedule an appointment, please just go to the website to pick a slot. For this second portion of the meeting, Rudy will be doing a live demo of the online grants process. If you would like a refresher or you're not familiar with it, you can stay on.
Actually, it's not going to be a live demo, but I will explain the process. Yeah. And I'm just going to point out, I'm sorry, this should be program@mccael.org, not programs. A little typo there.
And if you've used this email before, we will still get it, but you just do programs@McCael. I'll stop sharing my screen just to see if there are any questions or anyone has their hand up before we go to the second portion.
Okay, and feel free anyway, if you think of a question later to shoot us an email. So Halima, I can share. I think it just might be easier if I share. Thanks.
Yeah.
So feel free to log off if you don't want to, or if you already know how to use the grants portal. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And again, I just put the information here how you can get to the grant portal. Of course, as Halima just showed, it's available on our website, and or there's a direct link which you may just want to save to your computer. As we've said before, the forms are available next Friday. So I'm going to talk about how to create an account and everything from the beginning. If you already have an account, you'll be using your same login. If there is a change in the person who is using, in other words, a change in the email address for your organization, just please let us know and we can transfer it over on our end and link it to your previous applications so that the new person has access to all of your previous work that's in the portal. So when you go to the link, that you'll come to this sign-in page and you want to create an account if you haven't got one. And once you have created that account, you get started by creating a profile. It's pretty self-evident, but you just click on the plus and to get your profile started. It will ask you for your name, your mailing address, legal name, street address, all that good stuff. On the organizational profile form also we have an upload field for your letter from the IRS on your 501c3 status. Obviously, this is not going to be, it's not going to be necessary for Access Small Grant applicants if you're not a 501c3. And then once you've created your profile, you will see this grant applications section here and get started. So if you already have submitted applications before, they're all still going to be there listed, and you'll still see this get started square next to your other ones. So you just click the get started to get access to the FY23 forms. So as I mentioned before, there are two forms and they show up together here. So to get to the application form, the narrative, all you do is click edit and it will bring you to this page. It's very important that you take the questions in order, and especially this question, which grant are you applying for? Because once you click on it, the appropriate form comes up. So if you say access, the access grant form will come up. If you do program, a different form will come up. And as I mentioned before, anybody who's applying on the portal for an access small grant, that is a subcategory of access grant. You'll just be using that same form. And then it has a series of questions in there. And most are going to be starred, they're going to be required. So it will ask you for an answer if you are not, if it isn't filled in. You will be able to save a draft in here and come back to it later. And it is not final and submitted unless you click the submit button. This is a screenshot of the supporting organizational documents at the bottom of the narrative form. So all you need to do is select the file and you can select it from your computer. As I mentioned before, Access Small Grants have different forms to upload. So the instructions will be in this section for each of these uploads. The second form is the application data summary, and it will ask you for key data points from your outcome summary, and particularly the number of learners enrolled in the current year as of March. Sorry, these are last year's slides. It'll be as of March 31st, 2022, and then the proposed target for learners and classes. There's also questions about some budget points from your program budget. And that's pretty much it. Can I answer any questions about the portal? Obviously, we are always available if you have problems with accessing it or questions Or there might be some, hopefully not, but if there are any bugs in the system, please do write us and let us know. Okay, maybe if there aren't any other questions, then that's it for our presentation.
Stop